Hi, everybody. Please bear with me. I'm a little bit nervous. Like, I'm rusty. Just like our clothes might be rusty. I don't know if you noticed this cartoon behind me, but this is probably similar to how many of us felt maybe 4 or 5 months ago in the midst of COVID, or as we were coming out of this global pandemic, trying to figure out what the heck was in our closet. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. But this month's theme is creativity. So we're going to talk about what makes you innovative, a problem solver, creative, and unexpected, and how you convey that through your nonverbal communication. So we know that we have the functionality of needing to get dressed every day, but there's other things that are important about getting dressed as well. It can become a vehicle for connection, expression, and communication of your personal brand. So we're going to get into that more in detail. But I hope that today we will get a few things out of this session. Some takeaways. The first is really inspiration, creative ideas and creative outlets to explore. So we're going to do a quick brainstorm of what that looks like for everyone.
And we're just going to move you a little bit closer to the
Sure.
Now you can see. Sorry.
Stand on the edge, she said.
Like she's
Stand on the edge. Okay, perfect. So first thing is inspiration, new creative outlets to explore. The next thing is ideas on how to bring that creativity into your work. I was just at a workshop where they talked about being resourceful versus getting into a state of panic or anxiety. And so having that creative outlet can really help you stay in a really good state of mind and translate into problem solving in your businesses and in your personal life. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I'm wanting to get a lot from you actually, and wanting you to get a lot from each other in that respect. And then I bring the tips in terms of personal brand and how to really look at your wardrobe from a new perspective. With a new lens, I have some tips on how to clear out the clutter so that you can really start to see the forest through the trees, and some ideas around that nonverbal communication. So that's what we're going to do. So let's jump in with, we did introductions, but let's jump in with this icebreaker. So my question for you is, how do you light your creative spark? What do you do that you're really, it helps you to think creatively? And I'll define that a little bit more for us really broadly. And if you don't have anything right now, what would you like to incorporate into your life? And then how do you apply that creativity and that innovation elsewhere? So what I want to do is kick us off with a broad definition of what a creative outlet could be. Webster's dictionary, no, I'm just kidding. So my definition is something that you create or plan or consume that lifts you. It makes you feel alive. It makes you feel inspired. Maybe it allows you to express what's on the inside, that's something internal to you, or maybe it helps you get perspective on something external to you. So there's a huge laundry list, but to kind of get us kicked off, it might be yoga or meditation or movement, dance, martial arts, playing an instrument or listening to music, time outdoors, gardening, hiking, traveling, journaling, reading, writing, connecting with others, entertaining, planning, dreaming, brainstorming, solving puzzles or equations, riddles, crosswords, arts and crafts. Pinterest fails, anyone? Painting, pottery, quilting. It might be comedy or laughter, and that could include dark humor as well. Shopping, if your love language is gifts, or cooking, if your love language is food. It could be design, if you think about interior design, exterior design, and landscaping and gardening. It could be personal style, which obviously we'll get into a little bit more. But what I want you to do, and I'm sure there's much more on this list, this is not comprehensive, but there's much more that's missing. So I'd love for you to, Stacy suggested this as a teacher, to think, pair, and share. So think about these 3 questions, pair up with who's next to you, and then we'll give you a couple minutes to talk, like maybe 30 seconds to a minute each, to talk about these questions and answers, and then we'll call on a few people. So talk amongst yourselves. All right, ladies. Hopefully that gave you a little bit of time to connect with somebody and maybe share or reflect or perhaps come up with something new that you'd like to adopt. So let's call on a few people to share. Ashley, star student.
Sorry, I'm like eager reader. Laurie and I were talking about how she's like really drawn to water and things like that. So like the hot springs helps her like restore and create her, like engage with that creative part. And then I had to ask her what mine was because I didn't know. She was like, "You like ideas and like I like challenges and things like that." So I
She doesn't know, but she curates interesting people and interesting ideas.
She's a connector. Yeah. So
She's always bringing up somebody with something cool.
curating ideas and people, for sure. Absolutely. And I don't know how well St. Louis can hear, so I'll recap for you all. Another one was this idea of curating and connecting people, and another one was water, and just probably nature as well. Yeah, hot springs. Man, sounds good. Who else wants to share? Crickets. It's Annie, right?
We decided back here that yoga and painting and gardening and all these things are what bring us like more relaxation and do not spark creativity or inspire. They're more like we're relaxing. We realize that we both do the same thing when we run. We voice text ourselves ideas as we're like all the stuff is coming out. So maybe more like
movement.
High energy exercise as opposed to yoga.
I do both, right? So meditation to kind of level set, yoga just in terms of clearing my mind, but I get my best ideas when I'm a runner. So I get my best ideas out on long runs, but I need to take my phone with me to capture that instead of like repeating it over in my head.
Yeah.
But I find such solace in being out, moving my body, and I get the best ideas sometimes in that regard. And just really get out of like this being stuck on a problem that needs a solution. Who else wants to chime in? Yes.
Well, we didn't get to finish yet, and Jennifer sharing all sorts of great things with me. We have a shared passion for interior design and that kind of style. And Jennifer loves actually curating and redoing and staging spaces. Yeah. So she is a great friend to have.
It would make sense. It aligns with your business, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Which dovetails with the business. And then also we didn't get fully into it, but Jennifer does coaching for people who are just entering the real estate space. So taking licensing and the really dry things into the practical real life aspects of it, and it sounds like that really
Years of all really. Well, and honestly, being here, I like listening to everybody's introduction. I was like, holy crap, this room,
I
right?
know.
Like just being around other empowering people, especially women. That's a huge creative spark.
And another one in terms of like when you share your ideas and you teach and you coach other people, that's oftentimes how you get mastery, but it's how you get a different perspective. That's really good.
I really go crazy when I'm mentoring.
When you're mentoring, yeah, it can be really, really fulfilling. Anyone else want to comment on this idea of creativity and a creative outlet and how you apply it, Jamie?
Beyonce.
Beyonce, music, right? The playlist that inspires, that lifts you up.
When I was single, I had like a soundtrack, and by like married, I have I have my different Beyonce soundtracks based on where
Beyonce for all
what the
forms of
situation
life.
is, yeah.
Absolutely. I love it. That's great. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. I got a couple good ideas out of that. Did anybody else want to share anything that they, please?
So I love to cook, and I love to cook. And my daughter actually just graduated pastry school, and she has a full-time job as an assistant pastry chef. So my relaxation from work is to watch cooking videos.
Oh, yeah.
And so I watch Chopped and MasterChef. Currently I'm watching MasterChef Ireland, Australia, Canada. We just love watching cooking shows. Not just because I want to learn to cook those things, but just watching the food. And so I've lost an enormous amount of weight. Since before the pandemic, I've lost 90 pounds.
Wow.
So,
Good for you. Holy cow.
So I watch the food videos, not just because I want to eat food, but because it really helps motivate me to kind of eat well and cook more interesting food. And it has nothing to do with my work. It just is really like invigorating and inspiring. And it's like, ooh, I want to be able to do that, and I want to try those things. And I for the holidays last year, I got 3 cookbooks as presents for my family, and just to cook interesting food. And I just find that really creative and fun. And it's not even that it has anything to do with my work at all.
But it's a good break from your work.
It's a break from my work. It's relaxing.
Totally.
And I just find it totally exciting to watch food.
I'm the same way. I love watching food. I actually often would watch it while running on the treadmill, training for marathons. Crazy, I know. Like, how can you watch the food program while you're doing that? But I also love travel, and this last year and a half has been really tricky for those of us who love travel. But I love to travel through my taste buds and take cooking classes in other countries and go to markets in other countries. I absolutely can relate with you on that point, for sure. All right, well, let's continue on, and we're going to talk about how this translates into personal branding. So, personal branding. I would love for you to think about and jot down 3 adjectives to describe your personal brand. So what is on the inside that you think needs to be reflected on the outside? Who are you on the inside, and what message do you want to convey externally? So think about how you want to be perceived, and think about how you want to be versus how you think you should be. Okay, how you want to be. Ashley's like, that's deep. Who you want to be versus who society tells you, or how you've been conditioned to think you should be. Okay, this is authentic to who you truly are on the inside, stripping away societal expectations. Okay, so think about words for your character. This could be trustworthy, it could be confident, easygoing, you name it. And then think about your look as well. It might be beautiful, pretty, striking, etc. So take a moment and jot this down. We're going to come back to this in the Q&A. And during the session, hopefully you will start to think about how you can use your attire to support communicating these adjectives. Okay, so take a moment and think about that. And while you think about that, I'm going to talk about the power of clothing in terms of sending a nonverbal message. Okay? So we all know we're conditioned to judge things by their appearance. Books based off of their covers, houses based off of their curb appeal, and people by how they look. So it's an unfortunate thing in some respects. I have to make sure I'm still standing on my X. It's an unfortunate thing in many respects, but it's how we're conditioned and hardwired as people. So I want my clients to take advantage of that and make sure that they're communicating who they are externally and thinking about the power of clothing and nonverbal communication. So we know that we form a laundry list about people before they even open their mouths. We think about their status in society, we think about their educational level, we think about their personality. That's how we're hardwired. And so I want to equip you with some ways to think about communicating about yourself to overcome this or to maximize this. And then we also know that 2/3 of your nonverbal communication, or of your communication, is nonverbal. So it is your posture, it's your eye contact, it is your handshake, it is all of the things beyond just the words that you're using. So you have to think about that in relation to how you present yourself. So in addition to creating this idea of interest, you can communicate important messages with your clothes. So you can communicate things like authority, and I'll talk about that in a moment, approachability, competence, etc. So the language that we use in our clothing is actually based in historic times, the sumptuary laws during Elizabethan times. So the attire at that point was used to communicate status and power. And we still have a lot of holdovers of that in our society now. So when you look at a military uniform, or you look at a doctor's white jacket, or a lab jacket, or you look at Native American dress, those are all conveying power, authority, approachability, status. They're communicating a message before the person who wears them even opens their mouth. So if you want to and need to hold authority, here's a couple of examples of how you can do that. And I'm actually not showing it visually for you today because that's not something that I wanted to communicate in this workshop. I wanted to really communicate approachability and confidence, but not necessarily authority. But there are times in our lives where we need to hold that authority. So a couple of things and the messages that they send. When you wear a blouse, whether it's buttoned up or a collar, it's protecting the jugular, which is a very vulnerable part on your body. So that's something that you can do to hold more authority. That's why men wear neckties or bow ties, and women oftentimes wear shirts that are higher necked. You can do the same thing with a scarf or a necklace as well. Your bag or your laptop is considered your shield or your protection. Your belt, in your belt loops is where you carry your knowledge. And again, this is rooted historically, and it's things that we're kind of conditioned to see and think about without even really realizing it. Your watch sends the message that you value time, your time and other people's time. Your pen can act as a sword. Your glasses are where you have eye contact and you build rapport. When you wear lipstick, you're adding balance to your face and you're adding this idea of weight to your words. So it's kind of like read my lips. What I'm saying is really important. And when you wear closed-toed shoes, it's a signal that you mean business. So think about oftentimes in the workplace, men with closed-toed, hard steel-toe shoes. Same idea for women in the workplace. When you are wearing closed-toed shoes, you're removing sexuality from the workplace, and you are really signaling that you mean business and you hold more authority. And then colors. Oh my goodness, I could go on and on about colors. I'm definitely color and style as my business. But colors, there are so many connotations in terms of color. And the colors that you wear can make you more visible, make you feel more confident as well. So red is a color of power. It can be sexual, it can be aggressive. Blue can be conservative, also very calming and relaxing. Pink can be feminine. Black can be very aggressive. Purple has a connotation of leadership and creativity. Again, I could go on and on, but these are some examples of how you can hold authority through what you're wearing. So if you think about it, every item head to toe that you're wearing, your accessories included, is a word in the nonverbal message that you're sending without even opening your mouth. So think about what you're communicating, either intentionally or unintentionally. What's on the inside, again, back to those three adjectives that you want to reflect on the outside. So a couple things to consider. Consider the message you're sending if you want to convey that you're creative, but you wear boring black. If you want to convey approachability, but you feel really stifled and stiff in perhaps a suit jacket somebody told you to wear. If you want to convey that you are very attentive to detail, very detail oriented, but your fingernails are chipped, your toenails are chipped, and your shirt's all wrinkly. Think again about this idea and what you're conveying. If you want to convey energy, but you're swamped by the clothes that are too big for you. So there's a lot of ways we can sabotage ourselves and not send the right message. So those are a few examples to kind of illustrate that. I also want to point out this idea of not only dressing for other people, but dressing for yourself. I talk a lot about this idea of dressing for success, dressing for the part, this concept that was introduced to me in college, dress well, test well. I had a friend who always dressed in her finest when she went to finals. And so there's this idea of honoring yourself, your goals, your activities, and who you are as a person and what you want to accomplish when you dress for the day that you want to have. So any questions at this point? I feel like I'm spewing a lot of tips and suggestions. Any comments or thoughts from people?
I have a question about manicure color.
That's an interesting question. Okay.
What colors convey authority versus what may not?
Right. So your standard colors that are expected probably convey more authority. Honestly, something that's clear, something that's light, like a French manicure, conveys, like, it shows that you're put together, but it's not, you know, it depends on what you want to convey. If you want to convey creativity and something unique and different, or youth, there's so many messages that you can send and who you are on the inside. But a more conservative approach, a more professional approach would probably be light, sheer, or like a typical color of a pink or a red.
Is the goal to be less distracting, or like I was thinking about, like you said, like lipstick, like you want to provide the balance of the read my lips, but we talk so much with our hands. Mm-hmm. Is there a color that is? I'm just trying to figure out like what the balance is between it being attractive and gaining the type of attention you want versus distracting.
So my goal as a stylist, and when I talk to people and coach people, is for the woman to be visible and the dress to be secondary. So I usually work with them on color that is secondary, but it's supporting them. And so same thing with the clothing and the style and the accessories. Like, they can add up to points of interest that elevate your look and allow you to really personalize it, but you're thinking about it in connotation with the message that you want to send. Right. And like, how much is integrated versus how much is distracting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, good question. Yes.
I guess I'm wondering too, how much you think about what actually makes the person feel good and feel confident. And think of it in the terms of just like career transition and you know, I transition from one thing to another thing to another thing, and the dress helps. Like in court, it had to be a certain way.
Right.
And
There's
I'm
an
so
expectation.
used to being that way that when I went on TV and they were telling me like loosen up, take
Yeah.
off your jacket, and no, and that's my armor.
Right.
So I'm just wondering how
It's really different for different settings, right? So one of the things I work with my clients on is consistency. So your style is and I'll talk a little bit more about this, but your style is consistent to you because it's related to your personality, but how you reflect that style might be different in a formal affair, on the beach, when you're in a work environment, and that work environment has different expectations, right? So if you're feminine and you want to convey that femininity, how do you do that still in the confines of the expectations that you wear a suit to court? And so it translates differently into different situations. That's why, for example, you see the president and he goes in to do a presentation at the UN, or he's at Davos and he's wearing his suit, his red power tie, and he's like buttoned up. You see the same president roll up his sleeves, take his jacket off, and when he's in a factory with blue-collar workers, there's a connotation of approachability in that scenario, whereas in the other scenario, there's a connotation of power. And so it's really this balance and deciding how much authority and power you need to hold and conveying that versus how much approachability and reliability and realism that you need to bring to the equation. So it varies dependent on the situation. Really good point.
Just remind me about the time that I used to wear uniform for work. So whenever we had the opportunity to meet our coworkers outside, we overdressed.
Right. Yes. And it's funny because we are about to enter a stage of overdressing. Because we have all been in our homes for the last year and a half, and some of the stylist predictions are this era of opulence, of the roaring 20s again, of sparkle and glitter and sheen and shine and dressing to the nines, because we're excited to engage with one another and to be meeting in person. So that's one of the style predictions and trends that we're seeing. So let me jump in to a little bit more, and we'll get back to some more questions in a bit. Okay, so I want to convey a couple of things that are important to you in terms of my perspective as a stylist. So the first thing is, I have a couple of my favorite quotes, but style is really a way to say who you are without opening your mouth. It's a way to, again, convey this idea of this non-verbal communication. And it's very personal. Really personal. That's why it's called personal style. So that's the bottom line. So it's really related to you and the communication that you want, who you are on the inside, how you want to leverage that creativity and express it externally. So there's different elements of style. And this is why a one-size-fits-all approach really doesn't work when it comes to your personal style and your personal brand. There's your lifestyle, how you spend your time. There's your aspirations and where you want to go and where you want to be. There's your personal brand, which is really those adjectives and how you want to convey who you are, that's inside, externally. There's your body architecture. And that is something that doesn't change as you age. It's something that doesn't change as you gain or lose weight. It's the structure of your body and the proportion of your body. I noticed I didn't say body shape, and I didn't talk about fruits like apples and pears and stuff like that. It's mathematical. And then the final thing is your personality. Again, that's related to your personal brand. But that is why style is so personal and so unique. So next thing I want to do is give you some tips to reduce the clutter in your closet. I want to, sorry. You do have clutter? Okay, so start taking notes, Stacey. This one's for you. Yeah, this one's for you. So let's talk about how you see the forest through the trees, because my end goal is for you to feel creative and empowered and excited when you get dressed and not feel overwhelmed, exhausted, distracted in your closet. So let's talk about this idea of cleaning some things out of your closet so that you can see the forest through the trees, so you can start to understand what reflects your personal style and what supports the nonverbal message you want to convey. So this is mind-blowing, but typically women on average in the US spend between $2,000 and $5,000 a year on clothing. Okay, granted, this last year was an exception, but we spend a lot of money on clothes. And we end up wearing about 20% of what's in our closets. 80% of the time. So that means if you're among us and you have things in your closet that have never been worn, or maybe they even still have the tags on them, by the way, you're never gonna wear them if the tags are still on them, you're not alone. We have closets that are busting at the seams, but yet struggle with what to wear. So show of hands, anybody ever felt negative emotions in their closet? Overwhelm, exhaustion, frustration, I gotcha. For most of us, decisions around dressing and that fatigue is real. So I wanna give you a few tips in terms of how to evaluate what's in your closet. There are some stylists who will come into your closet, pull everything out, and then only put things back in that work for you. I have more of a do-it-yourself approach, and so my suggestion is for you to start by looking at these 5 questions, and I have a bonus one for you as well. So I actually tell people to pull things out one at a time and ask themselves these questions. This can also be used when you're shopping. So I'll get into that in a moment. But does it fit now? Not when you gain or lose weight, but does it fit now? Okay, we all have those goal things in our closet and it's not doing anything for you. How can you imagine starting your morning by putting on a pair of pants that are too tight? Like, how is that setting the stage for an awesome day? The next one, does it honor your body architecture, your curves versus your angles? Does it create the illusion of proportion and balance? So where the neckline hits you, where the arms hit you, where the waist is, those things can create this illusion of balance. We have this idea of perfect imperfection in our mind. None of us are that, but there's a lot of tricks you can do with your clothing to create that sense of balance and proportion. The next one, is it in a great color? One that makes you visible, healthy, vibrant. We can talk offline because I'm happy to show you what your best colors are. Is it authentic to you? Does it feel like it's true to you? Do you love it? Do you feel amazing in it? Or does it feel like a costume? Or like you saw somebody else wear it and you're like, she looks good, so I should get it too. And then you're like, I don't feel or look the same way. So is it true to you? Does it reflect who you are on the inside? The next one, do you love it? Yeah, do you love it? It should make you look and feel fantastic. And I'll get into that later. Another thing, is it in good condition? Because often we love the heck out of our clothes. If we're wearing a small portion of our clothes all the time, maybe that favorite shirt or favorite dress is threadbare and sad, and you should probably look at replacing it. If you've loved it too much, where is its counterpart to replace it? And then bonus, does it coordinate? So thinking about each piece and how it works together, it really is a game changer for me in terms of things. I do a performance review on my closet and I use these questions in mind. And I want things to be a workhorse for me. I want them to work hard. And if they're not, they're fired. They're out of my closet. And I'm very straightforward about this. But I try not to invite what I call strangers into my closet. Those things where I'm like, what am I gonna wear this with? Like, I need shoes. I need a jacket. I need a skirt. Like, in order to do this, I need a whole nother 5 other things, or it's just like a stranger and it just sticks out. So these are my suggestions in terms of evaluating what's in your closet. A couple of things about this. Give yourself a ton of grace. This is not easy. It is hard to look at the amount of money we spend and waste on things that we don't love, that don't love us back. But when you use these questions, it will really help you. Take notes, because you don't want to repeat the same things again and again. What do you have a lot of? What do you have excessive amounts of? Like, if I buy one more black sweater, no, I'm not allowed to. Like, I'm good in that department, right? But I'm missing these 3 things, and then it could really make my wardrobe work better for me. So be really decisive in culling through and asking yourself these questions. Take notes, and then you can learn from your mistakes and not repeat them. And again, if it has the tags on it still, probably not gonna wear it. Let it go, let it go. I could sing my Elsa, but I won't. Okay, so stop buying what you never wear. This tip can also be used as you're shopping. So let's see what else we've got here. Oh, this is my little Cora Grace. We think she's a winter. So this is my daughter, Cora Grace. She's 6.5, and Cora is full of moxie, full of excitement, full of creativity. She's obviously the love of my life. And she has taken this dress and made it into a skirt with the sewing machine. And then she's taken the skirt and she's thrown it over her shoulder, and now it's a top. And she's tucked her little makeup bag underneath as a little satchel. She's borrowed my hat. She's got some flip-flops on. She has so much excitement about her expression and her ability to express herself through what she wears. And somehow over time, I think that it gets conditioned out of a lot of us. And we look at our closets with dread and we don't know where to start. And so my hope is that some of these things today will inspire you to think a little bit more like Cora Grace. She enjoys dressing. She enjoys experimenting and playing. And so I just love that about her. That's nice.
Love your voice.
I'm a big fan of Audrey Hepburn. So next, my recommendation for you in terms of getting creative in your closet after you've culled through and gotten rid of the things that don't serve you. I have 4 tips, maybe 5. So the first one is a scorecard. Rate everything on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being awesome.
Already been all 0.
Then it's time to talk to me, right?
Hands up, sorry, down.
Yeah, so hopefully you have a few things that are at the 8 or 9 or 10. And if you're wearing the things that are a 2 or a 3 or a 4, what's that saying to yourself, okay? What kind of message is that sending, and what kind of day are you setting yourself up to have if you don't love what's on you and love what you're wearing? So that's the first thing. Don't settle for the mediocre. Next one is this idea of a grid. So on the left, Karen, she's one of our consultants and owners of franchise for House of Color, and she's put together a grid. She's got her top, her sweater, those are the same, and then she has a bunch of different pants and shoes to go with it. So she's able to see all the different combinations she can put together. So she's a very visual person. So some people, my type A's, do this as a spreadsheet, where they're like, all my tops across the top, all my bottoms across the side, and then I can look and see a grid, how they all work together, and then I can see, oh, if I had 1 more pair of this, then I could make 4 more outfits. It's like kind of a fun mathematical problem, but it will allow you to see combinations you might not have thought of before. Next tip is to schedule a date with your closet. Pour yourself a glass of wine or a cup of tea, turn on some fun music, a little Beyonce, and allow yourself time to play. Oftentimes we're rushed. We're like, I need this for now. I'm late, I'm going. And so this allows you to put things on, to think about different combinations, to get creative, because there's no way we can get creative when we're rushed. So schedule some closet dates. And again, think about the nonverbal message that you're sending. Another thing you could do is subscribe. I have this highlighted down here, and I'll follow up with y'all later, but I send out monthly color and style tips in my newsletters for House of Colors, so that's another way that you can get creative moving forward. And I have some really fun color trend reports and fashion trend reports to share with people. So my goal at the end of all of this is to help my clients feel authentic, beautiful, to feel confident, to feel visible, and to enjoy what they wear and enjoy dressing and understand the message that they're conveying through what they say in their clothing. So I would love to open it up for questions, Q&A, and I would love for you to think about, in addition to questions I can answer, what's a new creative outlet that you're going to explore that you got as an idea today, or something that you want to dive deeper into? And what are some actions that you have from today's session that you'd like to maybe share out with other people?
I'm gonna let 5 minutes of Q&A.
Yep, 5 minutes of Q&A.
12, 15, I go Q and answers, and I want to build it a few minutes to chat with each other.
Yeah, so questions. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm dying to know if we have to get rid of our skinny jeans.
Oh, yes, skinny jeans, right? Okay.
Please tell us now.
No. So fashion is like what's now, and style is what works for you. Okay. So when thinking about skinny jeans versus all the different types of pants, think about your body architecture and if that is creating the right proportion and balance for you. So some people can totally rock skinny jeans, keep on rocking it. Some people, the wide leg works really well. It's fashion and what's coming and going. But you do not have to get rid of anything. If you feel as though it is sending the message that you want to send and you feel awesome in it. So no. Are you going to do the middle part though?
My hair's like 5 shades darker.
Good question, skinny jeans. What else do we have for questions?
Any brands or retailers that you're playing?
Oh man, that's a really good question. So a little bit kind of to backtrack, what I do 2 things. I do color analysis and I do style. And the style is based off of body architecture plus your internal personality and how much yin and yang you have in both of those things. And so we have 6 clothing archetypes that are, or 6 archetypes that we use in our clothing personalities at House of Color. So they're the archetypes that we see often in literature. So, and in books and in movies, Disney does these really well. So we base our clothing personalities, we have 23 of them, and they're based off of these archetypes. And so, for example, me, I am what you call a classic ingenue. And so that means I need a lot of structure. I need to show my waist based off of my body architecture. I like things and look good in things that are like a medium scale. I can't do really big and I can't do small. And I can do little bits that add up to medium scale. So those are some, and I'm a little bit frilly, a little bit feminine. So that's a little bit about my clothing personality. So based off of my clothing personality, then I have a list of retailers that I really like to go to and places that I like to shop. And so that happens also for my clients. Once we know their clothing personality, then it's a lot easier for them to look at style icons online that they can follow and look at shops where they can go. So it helps you understand why you might get hives when you go into some retailers and why you really continue to buy things from other retailers. But it also helps you to step beyond that and kind of try and step into your clothing personality in a way that you might not have before, so that you can just kind of experiment with it and get more comfortable with it. So I have a list of retailers that I love. It's really hard to shop mainstream without a better sense of who you are and the message you want to send. There is so much out there in terms of different cuts, different styles, different trends, and everything's on sale right now. Like we're in the middle of the Nordstrom sale, and retailers have just struggled so much over the last year. So everything's on sale, but that doesn't mean that everything belongs in your closet because it's on sale, right? So understanding what you want to convey can help you to get a better sense of what retailers you want to go to. I hate shopping, confessions of a stylist, somebody who owns a style franchise. I hate shopping, but it's bearable now for me because I know my best colors and I know what I want to convey through the clothing that I wear, and I know what I want in my closet, and so I'm like laser focused. And so I go shopping more frequently versus in panic mode. Don't go shopping in panic mode of like, I need this outfit for this occasion tomorrow or tonight, because you're going to buy things that aren't necessarily going to serve you for the long term. So I didn't answer your question directly of like what retailer is great.
To just throw out a retailer that's not going to serve you.
Yeah. And I think also, retailers that have great customer service, retailers that will help you with this. So I always tell people about Nordstrom just because it's fantastic in terms of customer service. They can help you. They do have personal styling, and so, or personal shopping, not styling. And so that's really helpful. Yeah.
One last question. Who's going to be the last?
Or we can just.
Oh, yay! Elise Bowl.
Go ahead, Elise.
Thank you.
So I work in tech, and in like fashion grunge is a thing.
Say it again.
Fashionable grunge.
Yes.
Like
Mm-hmm.
literally $1,000 hoodies.
Yeah.
People, like, walking
Yeah.
hoodies.
Look at the guys who have made billions in that. Mhm.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I went to a conference in San Francisco before COVID, and they're seriously paying us all like blues and blacks, hoodies, jeans.
T-shirts, jeans. Yeah.
I would love to push the boundaries, but I would love to wear bright colors
Yeah.
and be a little bit more feminine, but I know that they would be seen. I guess my question is, when you want to push the boundaries of a space by showing your style, what is your advice on how to do that, but also, not be too much of a, not too much of a peacock.
Yeah.
That's
I'm going back to Cora. It's a really good question, right? So Cora's not worried about what other people are thinking, right? And somehow we get it in our brains that we should be so worried about what other people are thinking. So I challenge you to step into that space. And, I guess my advice to you is start slowly. and build, but be consistent. The biggest sabotage to personal style is inconsistency. Case in point, girlfriend in college, bless her heart, one day she's grunge, the next day she's hippie, the next day she's preppy. I'm like, Amber, who are you? Like, what is going on the inside, right? So consistency. So if you have some messages that you want to convey and you've thought back about those adjectives and you want to start to introduce that and start to test it and play with it, first thing is play in your closet, play with people who you know, people who trust you, right? Or you trust, to get their feedback and kind of push into that. But then once you go, slowly turn the dial up. And the crazy thing is, even though I've talked a lot about what people are noticing about you and the power of nonverbal communication, I have to temper that with the idea that people actually don't notice as much as you think, because they're self-absorbed. They're in their own world. So they won't notice what you're doing, but they'll notice that you're more confident, you're more visible, you're more creative, you're stepping in and taking up space. And that's the one thing that we are conditioned not to do as women. And so take that space.
Yeah.
Round of applause.
Thank you. And just a plug for her color consult. It is literally life-changing. I did it for my birthday right before the pandemic hit, and I got rid of everything black. I do regular black. I have a better black, and literally will promote the color consult as something that's so amazing.
I can't wait to try it. And it was Heather's birthday recently, so happy late birthday. The same day as our programming last week.
44 young.
Love that. Well, and it's funny, Elise, that you asked that. As a former teacher, I was always trying to dress very non-feminine because I wanted to downplay. I started teaching at 23 and they were 17, 18-year-olds. So you can imagine, like, I didn't really wear heels. I wore pants. Sally on here is a former student of mine. But when I left teaching, I was like, I want to wear dresses every day in my nude pumps. But I will tell you, when I came to Denver, I felt a little uncomfortable at first, right? Because Denver's a little bit more casual as a whole. And I had a moment where I almost stopped wearing my dresses and nude pumps.
Be authentic to you.
Exactly. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to be the peacock, because when I dress the way that I'm comfortable, I feel better. So it makes me feel good that I wasn't off rails on that. I am so glad Heather presented today. For those of you who don't know, every month has a theme. Does anyone know what this month's theme was and why I had Heather speak? And innovation. And I think that, you know, your style, your wardrobe, your personal brand is so important to that. How you look on the outside helps how you feel, and then how you feel, how you execute in business. So I know it's a little bit less business focused, but at the same time, it absolutely plays with your business. So we're thrilled that you presented. Speaking about creativity and innovation, next, what day do you guys know is our happy hour?
Next Wednesday.
I knew I loved you, Heather. Next Wednesday at 4 o'clock. If you did not know, we are having what we call Don't Rush Hour. It's our happy hour. And one of our members is going to lead us in a fun kind of arts and crafts thing. We're going to make like cards, like homemade cards with like watercolors and prints so that you can like write a card to one of your friends. So kind of fun and playful. But while over wine, who doesn't want to do that? So if you have not RSVP'd, please get on Rice Digital and RSVP. We're still getting a little bit better about that. Please make sure you're RSVPing so people can like stalk you ahead of time and make sure they know who they're going to connect with. Bonus points. Who knows what next month's theme is? And Mara, you can't participate because you're presenting. Yeah, that's one of them. Yes, so sales and biz dev is next month. So everything we do next month is about sales and biz dev. The in-person programming is going to have Mari a month from now. Also, the Power Up Coffee, which is on a Tuesday at 9 in the morning, that's going to have Brooke. Not Brooke. Oh my God, name.
Oh, Barbara.
Barbara, thank you. Whew, it's been a day. Barbara Brooks will be the speaker for the Power Up Coffee, so we're thrilled to have her. And then the last thing I want to say before I turn it over for you guys to chat and get to know each other is it has been a thrill to rebuild this community. So during COVID, we got up to about 200 members. COVID, we went back down to about 100, which is a little painful, a little bit of bloodbath. But in the past 6 weeks, I've taken over sales. We have sold 25 members. So we are, thank you. So we are thrilled about, and many of them are here today. We are thrilled about the growth and rebuilding the community, and thank you all for your help in doing that. We want to say even more thank you for that by doing something new, a Finder's Fee program. So although we're rebuilding our memberships, which we love, we still have a few offices that I need and want to get filled. Sarah had done such a good job when we opened all across the board, period, but especially getting the offices filled. She got them filled in 3 months. We opened in April, she had them all filled by the end of July. talk about kicking butt and taking names. And so that's where I am. I'm like, we're gonna get these offices filled like yesterday. We have 4 available. And anyone that comes from one of your suggestions and says your name and gets an office, I will write you a check for $500. That's how motivated I am. So if you know somebody who wants a private office, I have found that professional services loves our offices the most. So I have found things like lawyers, accountants. In St. Louis, Elizabeth Farmer, if you're listening, we love you. She's an accountant, and it's been so fun to watch her business boom from Rise. She started as a full-time member, shared an office, got an office, and then now has the biggest office in the state. And I feel like the whole Rise community goes to her. So I'd love to get a tax accountant in here, financial planners, and social media companies, and things like that. So if you have friends, get yourself some $500. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. I hope you stick around and chat and get to know each other as well as Heather. Thank you again, Heather. We love you and are so glad you're back. And have a great rest of your day. Bye, St. Louis.